Okay, let's work on this moon phases. You're trying to be able to draw the moon phases and name them. The thing that's difficult about astronomy in 4 months is you're trying to learn everything that's been learned, or at least some of it, in 4 months. And this has taken a long time to figure out. Even just to sit there and look at stuff and draw pictures, which is what Chapter 1 kind of is about, is what can you see with your naked eye, draw pictures and maybe name it. It still takes more time than we're giving it. So it's a speed course in a sense, and if you get out and see with your naked eye, it'll be good. So remember our good old mascot here. Now, we're going to draw these moon phases, and we're going to name them. And our ancestors often went, they tracked time, they noticed these changes, right? So they've got no TV, they've got no cell phone, they've got no computer, they're out there, you know, doing whatever, cooking, doing things, but, you know, a lot of time spent watching the moon. And you'd see it go through cycles, and a lot of tribes and folks watched it and counted and kept track of going from new to new to new. New moon through the phase cycles to new moon through the phase cycles, and they would count them. Trouble is that gets out of sync with the seasons and the calendar. It's not quite a perfect fit with a year. There's about 12 moon cycles for a year, so hence the 12, and you see that come up, but it's really not exact. It's about closer to a 12 and a half. And so on January 1st, the moon phase is going to be different from year to year to year. You know, July 4th, it's going to be different from year to year. Whatever day, your birthday, the moon phase will be different year to year. So how are we going to draw this? So let me start you, and then I'll show you with the magic of dry erase pens how we're going to draw this. We're going to draw the Terminator, shade the dark side. The Terminator is the line that separates, or where the light ends. It separates the lit and the not lit parts. Okay, so the Terminator. And this is important. You don't draw a wedge here or here. I won't even draw it, it's wrong. You don't, if you look up, you will not see that. What you will see is something like this, and I'll talk about it a bit. But you're gonna make a dot here and here. So to draw the Terminator, you have to connect the top to the bottom, or bottom to the top, right? And you do it in a nice smooth arc. And the way it's going to go from no Terminator, like that, to right Terminator, right side, which would be like, say that, and put an R by that if you want, R, to the center, C, to left, and then none again. And that's only half. That's going to be about 2 weeks, and then it'll go none. It'll go right, center, left, none, right, center, left, none. Okay? Waxing, right, we'll go from none, new moon, to right, to center, to left. And then none, full moon, to right, to center, left. Let's do that. Okay, remember also, important, that when you look from the northern hemisphere, we are looking south. And that means that the west is on the right side. Okay? Now I'm going to show you some things. There's a little variation here, but I'm going to draw a W right here. Okay? Because I choose to focus on, well, you can look at the east, but you can confuse yourself too. The reason I choose west is because the word waxing starts with a W, and the word waning starts with a W, and so does west. So let's look at the west side, and that works out really well. Let me draw a moon. Now, a moon might be that big or something, whatever, but I'm going to draw it huge so we get the idea. So let me draw this moon huge. And remember, if you want to make it easy and you're trying to catch on and be aware of something really quickly, and you find most people aren't, but some are, because they've had a class like this, paid some attention. And I'm going to connect that. Now what's going to happen? Let's go through this cycle. Okay, so you're going to see it day after day. It would rise and it would set. And we're going to start with, and we can start with a full moon, and some places on the web will show that. I like the new moon for a couple of reasons, but also our ancestors tended to count new moons. So new moon, remember that if I shade, then that means it is not lit. Whatever part I am shading is not lit. You could say dark. Okay. So I'm going to start here, kind of day one of the cycle. And I'm going to write this. Okay, the west, I'm going to say is not lit. So I'm just going to go here. I'm going to say not lit. And so that is new. Start of the cycle. And if you want, you could say new moon. You can say all dark, but I'm going to say it in a way that kind of has a little cadence to it. So not lit. Make sure that my video is all good this time. Doing it yet another time. Okay, cool. And then the next night, so this will rise and set. Now, the other thing that, if you think about it, sunlight would have to be hitting the other side. Don't think too much about this. We'll get to this in a little bit. So sun is actually out there, somewhere around there. In fact, it's going to rise and set during the day. It's going to be out during the day. Sun's going to be there, and it's not lit. Good luck seeing this. Not so much, right? Okay. And then let's look a few days later. So let's get rid of this. I'm going to look up here, and I'm going to go what? Right, center, left. So that means I'm going to do this. Now, it's gradual. Notice that I just took off a little chunk. It doesn't all of a sudden jump to a dramatically different phase. So this is slightly different, as you can see. And notice that what I'm looking at here is the west is lit. And if the west or right side is lit, then we say it is waxing. That is appearing more and more lit. Now it will rise and set so it can turn over. So the side heading towards the west horizon is lit. Okay, and then, so that's after a few days, say, I'll say around day, well, I'll say around day 3 or day 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, good enough. How much is the west lit? Well, the west is a bit lit. So let me do this again. I'll notice that the west is, let's do it this way. The west is lit. And I see that it is a bit lit. And that's going to give you my name. The west is lit, so it's waxing, meaning I know tomorrow night it'll appear more lit. And it's a bit lit, so it is a crescent. You see that wedge up there? A crescent. You do this over and over, and you're going to tell me to speed up because I'm going so slowly. But initially, it's odd. So that is you can see it's a waxing banana, right? It's the shape of a banana, a waxing crescent. All right. And then day after day, what's going to happen? It's going to go like this. It's going to get more lit, just gradually. The west is, because it's waxing, the next night it'll appear more lit. And the next night it'll put, remember I'm going top to bottom. Connect that. Now it's going to appear more lit. And that's just what you would see. You don't know why, you're just drawing pictures. More lit until one weekend, you go from right to center. Okay. And so how much lit is that? What phase is that? And notice that it's going to rise and set, so it kind of turns over. And there's some little funny business that goes on, so it's a little wacky. But but it's still half lit. And so I'm going to say the west is lit. And how much? Well, it's half lit. Oops, lit. But the important thing is, this is after, let me say, 1 week after a new moon. I might be getting a little low here, so this is going to be where do I want to write it? 1 week after a new moon. How long is a full moon phase cycle? About 4 weeks. It's 29 and a half days. Let's just say 28 days, 4 weeks. Easier to get a hold of it. You can worry about details later. So 1 week out of a 4 week cycle is going to be the first quarter, first week, first quarter. And you could say first quarter moon if you wanted to, but that's the first quarter. None, new, right, waxing crescent, center, first quarter. It's not a half moon. Don't call it a half moon. It is half lit. Don't call it a half moon. That's not the name of the phase. All right? Good so far? Now, you do it. That's day 7. Day 7. And what's it going to do? It's going to keep gradually waxing, right? And I go here to here. So now I can't go straight. I got to curve it over, and curve it over. Day by day, it's going to appear more and more lit. Right, center, left. Starting with none, new, right, center, left. It doesn't matter how much. Okay. Right, center, left. So now I look at this, and this is, the west is still lit, isn't it? Yes. So if the west is lit, that means it's waxing. The right side as I look at it. How much lit is it? It's mostly lit. What's the name for that? Gibbous, coming from the Latin word for hump, basically. Because it's got a little hump on the side, a little extra there. So a waxing gibbous. And you see where it goes. New, waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbous. Okay. Each of these will rise and set at gradually different times. It's going to rise a little bit later than sun. New moon will rise with sun, and then it'll gradually be different. You'd notice that that's a little bit too much for chapter 1. Okay, so what's next? Well, I keep erasing the west side. And of course, again, I'm just going to rise, turn over. And I go like this, and I go back to none, don't I? Well, what phase is that? Notice that it's all lit. And of course, that is a full moon. And let's take note, that's about 2 weeks after new. About 2 weeks after new moon. That's important. Talk about eclipses. Okay. Then what happens? It can't get any more lit, so it's got to start getting less lit or appearing less lit. And so where do we do that? From the west. So now the west is not lit. The west is dark or not lit. And we say that that is waning. And it will gradually, night after night, appear. Less and less. So it's got to be gradual. That's key. Now this is wrong. Now the west is what? It's dark, right? Or not lit. Let's just say not, oh, the west, yeah. The west is not lit, and that means it's waning. Meaning tomorrow night, the night after, will appear less lit. Well, how much lit is it? That's going to give us the phase name. This is not a crescent. That's the most common mistake, right? It's mostly lit. And what's the name for mostly lit? Gibbous. Now, if you try to just remember this without thinking about it and seeing it as a process, it's just a bunch of words. But if you think of this process and then realize that night after night, whether you see it with your own eyes, you see it as an animation. Here I'm kind of animating it, but I'm doing it so that you can draw it. Next night like that, connecting the dots, always connect the dots, connect the dots, connect the dots, until yeah. Sorry. The west is still not lit. It is still waning, but we don't call it waning. Why? Because it's going to be 3 weeks after new, 3/4 of the cycle. It's not lit. This is wrong. Did you catch that? That's wrong, right? How much is it? It's half lit. Is it a half moon? No. It's a 3/4 moon. Your calendar, and a lot of people might say last moon. People I know in astronomy say 3/4. Right? It makes sense because of this. Last quarter, it's like last out of, I mean, you got, after 1 week, it's first quarter. After 2 weeks, it's full. After 3 weeks, it's third quarter. So yeah, 2 weeks is 2 quarters, but no one says that. So there's only the first quarter and the third quarter, and third makes you think of 3 weeks. Not exactly, but still. So I prefer third quarter myself. And how does that look? Not lit, half lit. But this side is west, is not lit. Okay, so what happens then? Gradually, remember what I'm doing? I'm waning, waning, until on none, right, center, left. And that is what? How much lit is that? A bit lit. Bit lit. Oops. Hold on. Sorry. The west is still not lit. So it is still waning. Right? It's still very more and more dark or not lit. But how much lit is it? Well, that shape, that's a bit lit. And so that is a crescent. A waning crescent. And that crescent will get smaller and smaller until we're back to new. Let's do it again. Think of the names. Look at the west to see if it's waxing or waning. Right now it's, you know the phase. Think about that. And it can't do anything but start appearing more and more lit. Always from the west side. Do everything from the west. So, waxing. What's the shape? Crescent. Still a waxing crescent. Connect those dots. Waxing crescent. Bigger waxing crescent. Bigger waxing crescent until half lit. We don't call it half lit. About a week in. First quarter. Still waxing. Waxing. Waxing what shape? Gibbous. Mostly lit. Appearing more lit. Each night, rising and setting, turning over. More and more lit. More and more lit. until about 2 weeks in, full. Then what's it going to do? Start waning from which side? The west. So now it's waning. But what is that lit side shape? That is a mostly lit. That is a waning gibbous. All right, and then it's going to be waning gibbous, waning gibbous, waning gibbous until half lit. 3 weeks in, third quarter. Still waning. Keep going till it's what? A waning crescent. Waning banana. Waning, waning. And about 4 weeks, 29 and a half days, you have back to a new moon. So draw it, practice, own it, and we'll talk about why that is